Step into your power and shine light as a woman in all your magnificence, magic, essence, and energy, fully aligned and empowered with the Women's Empowerment Junkie podcast with Kelly Ann.
Welcome, in my lovelies, to another inspiring episode of An Empowered Woman. And today, again, is no exception with Jennifer Fallon. So Jennifer and I decided that today we're going to talk about taking that leap of faith to starting your own business. When you absolutely think you have no means to do so, you want to quit. You know, we all have been there. We want to be entrepreneurs. We want to start our own business, but we're so afraid because we have this job, this corporate job that pays the bills. And how are we going to do this? I don't have money for startups. I don't have this, and blah, blah, blah. And we've all been there. So, and Jennifer did just that. Now she buys apartments all over the nation with zero money out of her own pocket. So let's sit back and listen to how Jennifer did it, because y'all, this is something that we've all wanted to do as women. So let's sit back, listen to Jennifer, and let's start our own business, y'all. Let's make it happen. Hi, Jennifer.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can hear you. How are you?
Okay, good. I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Of course. You look so pretty and put together this early on a Sunday morning.
I just, don't even. Not even. But thank you so much. How are you?
I am great. The weather here is nice, and I have a convertible Jeep, so I think when we're done with this, we're going to go for a ride and
love it.
Play on some hills.
There we go. Where do you live again?
San Antonio, Texas.
Got it. Nice. I had a Jeep in California, and I sold it a couple of years ago, and I regret every minute of it.
Yeah. So I kind of looked, gas prices here are high. Well, you're in California, so I have nothing to complain about, I know. But when you get 11 miles to the gallon, it really makes you rethink your decisions.
Yeah.
And so I very briefly had a moment of, maybe I'll just trade it in, because I can always get another one later, right?
That was my thing.
And then when I got to the dealership, I was like, nah, just kidding.
I know, I was just driving it like here and there, like in the summer, like I would just go quickly to the beach, but nowhere long, because like you said, it's a really short gas, 11 miles a gallon. But I loved every minute of it. Top down, summertime, loved it.
Yeah.
So have
and
fun
mine sits way up. So I'm bigger than most people. So there's like a whole power trip involved too, right? Like I own the road, and it's terrible. Yeah. I love it.
It's terrible, but pretty cool. I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So welcome in again. And I wanted to, just before we get started on what you do and how you did it, tell us a little bit about you. Who you are, where you got to where you are today.
Yeah. So I'm really started from super humble beginnings. And, I was a single mom for 6 years, and just, one bad decision after another. And, I knew nothing about manifestation, knew nothing about, Napoleon Hill or anything about putting, what you want out into the universe. And had anybody even 4 years ago told me that, I'd have been like, keep your witchcraft away from me. You're, that's voodoo. But I, looking back, it's like, oh my gosh, I have manifested so much in my life.
I love that.
And my husband is one of them, where I was just at a point where I just was, I could not make a good decision. And I was dating like all these losers. And I was just like, I had this like kind of dead end job, which was a good job, but I was never going to go anywhere with it. And I was just like sitting at my desk and just desperate for a change. And I said, I wrote down everything that I wanted. So I'm like, something has to change. Like I'm doing the same thing over and over, which we all know is insanity. And so I actually made a list of everything that I wanted in a man in my life. Like, what did I want my life to look like? And I wrote it down. Again, I knew nothing about manifestation. I wrote it down so that I had an accountability, right? So I wasn't like, yeah, well, but he's so cute. Well, yeah, but no, if he doesn't meet this parameter, or my life doesn't meet this parameter, then it's a no. It's 3 strikes, you're out, right? Because nobody's perfect. But I had a 3-strike rule, and it was for myself as well. And my husband, he was actually my boss. I worked for him. And I started to pray over this list. And I was like, God, I'm asking a lot. Like, as if I put God in this box, I'm asking a lot. So if this man doesn't exist or my life can't look like this, just help me to be able to do it on my own. Help me to take where I am now and stop struggling and being miserable and, constantly on survival mode. And my husband walked in the door. And then I was like, yeah, God, but not him. Right. He was a CFO, CPA by trade, just super boring. And I was very attracted to like the bad boys. Right. And I still needed, right. Like we all love the bad boys. Like who doesn't love a bad boy? Right. And so I was like, oh, I couldn't be with him. Right. Like he's not going to make me laugh. He's not going to be fun. And actually, all the opposite, was there. Of course, he acted a certain way on the job and he was my boss, right? So he had to be, he had to watch what he said and what he did. But we ended up together. We've been together 13 years. It's been amazing. And this real estate thing was actually him. He was very much into real estate. When he first got into it, I was still like on mommy mode, right? My kids were little. I was doing soccer, football, church groups, and I was not in a position to help him or support him or even care, right? Like I'm just
that's
happy.
Mommy mode right there. That's nothing.
Right. Yeah. Like my schedule's full. Like, so whatever you take on is on you. But we got burned. Lost a lot of money and I was very bitter and angry about it. So fast forward 4 or 5 years, we end up in San Antonio and we lived in the Midwest. So real estate investors really didn't exist there. Nobody really knew. And so when we moved to San Antonio, the market is still super, super hot. And he said, I really want to do this real estate, but I really need you to support me and help me. My kids were older. I was more inclined to do that, but I was still angry and bitter, right? Because we'd already been ripped off once. So I went to a real estate meeting with him and they were selling like this 3-day learn everything boot camp. And so I said, okay, we're going to do this, but I want the VIP ticket because I want them to like see my face, know that I'm serious, know that if they pull anything, like I'll burn their houses down, right? Like we're not losing money again. Except that I was in a job where I hated my supervisor hated me. So when I said, hey, I need this weekend off, he was like, absolutely not, you're working. But I'd already paid $1,000 for 2 VIP tickets. And so I told my older son, I'm like, pack your bags, you're going to Austin, you're going to go to this real estate group. And he said, well, that sounds awful. And a little backstory, my son was desperately trying to get into the military and kept getting declined for whatever reason. Like, a week before he was supposed to ship out, they changed his orders. They actually stopped funding on the program that he had been accepted. And there were no jobs really left for him. So he said, I scored too high on my ASVABs to do anything less than I want to do. So they were like, well, then you're no longer property of the U.S. Navy. Have a nice life. He's trying to get into other branches, but from Missouri, we moved to Florida. We were in Florida a year before we moved to San Antonio. And those transitions, like his paperwork kept getting lost. Nobody would help this kid. It was just this nightmare. And he walked into the kitchen, and this is only a couple of weeks before this whole real estate thing kind of came up. And he said, I don't feel like I have a purpose in my life. I don't even know why I'm here. If I can't get into the military, if they don't let me in, I'm going to kill myself because I have no purpose in life.
Oh my God.
And he was very serious. And I, of course, what mother isn't freaking out, right? So I just started praying. I was like, God, I didn't want him to go into the military. But I was like, what, if that's what saves my son's life, of course I will. So fast forward back to this, hey, you're going to this event in Austin. He said, that sounds awful. I don't want to go. I'm like, too bad you're going. It changed his life. And that Friday night, he's calling me. So it was a 3-day. It was a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. He's calling me. He's like, Mom, you got to get up here. Saturday, when you get off work, you have to come up here. You have to meet these people. This is amazing. It's life-changing. Like, he is just on fire. And I was so happy. And so I go and I get there on a Sunday because I had worked late Saturday night. And they're giving us all this stuff, right? Like websites and business cards and CRMs and books. And it was just amazing. And I was like, this is the best $1,000 we have ever spent. I bet I said that 10 times on the way home. I cannot believe all of this was $1,000 and nobody says anything to me. Right.
Right.
Well, as we started this journey, because we can only do it part-time, my husband worked, I worked, my son worked. Again, my supervisor and I hated each other. And one day I'm so angry. Like we're just at each other all day that I just walked out. I'm like, I don't work for you anymore. I'm going to do this real estate thing full time. And I promised my husband, I was like, I'll replace my income. I'm going to work really hard at it. I'm going to make it work. And I'm sitting at my computer and I get this receipt from the group that we had just went to. And I was like, well, that's weird because I got a receipt a month ago when we signed up for the $1,000 VIP, and I open it and it says $50,000. And my first thought was, oh my God, they erroneously took this money out of my account and they have to put it back because shit's going to start bouncing, right? Like we're in big trouble. And I'm freaking out and I'm looking for a phone number to call them because they have to put this money back. And as I'm like scrambling, looking for the paperwork, my eyes are opened to all the stuff that's on my kitchen table, which was serving as my office. And I'm like,
$50,000 worth of stuff.
Those blank, they spent $50,000 of our money on this bullshit program that I was totally on board with until I found out it was $50,000. And I'm furious, right? Because I'm like, we already were burned once and it took us years to recover. And now they've done it again. And they weren't even home for me to like yell at. And so my husband was the first to walk in the door and I was like waiting, right? Like, I mean, the cartoons where the steam is out the ears, like that was like legit, like that shit's real, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, you spent our money. And then this is so great too. He totally threw my son under the bus. He was like, it was Cameron. It was totally, I didn't want to do it. Cameron begged me. We thought we would have the money put back before you ever realized it was gone. It was like, then it wasn't comical. Now it's really comical. And really stepping back and realizing that $50,000 saved my son's life. Like I was really angry about it, but in the grand scheme of things, like it gave him purpose. Yeah. Like we never heard about suicide or not having purpose ever again. And so would I not spend that $50,000 every single day of my life if it kept my son alive? Of course you would. Who wouldn't? You'd spend that for somebody else's kid and so that was kind of our journey into real estate. And I was like, well,
money though, that's like, for someone who, like, say you were a single mom, and didn't have, another income, but how did that, I wouldn't be able to do it. I mean, I'd be freaking out, like, put that shit back right now, but how did you get through that?
Well, that money had to be replaced. So not only did I leave a 6-figure income, but now we're $50,000, that was our safety net. Right. So now it's like I have to replace $150,000, which in real estate you can actually do very quickly. And as I was learning how to do, there's so many, as a real estate investor, there are so many funnels and just areas, roads you can go down. And one of those was wholesaling, where you put a house under contract and then you sell that contract to somebody that will fix and flip or rent it, hold it as a rental. And when I learned that, and I learned that you can make $10, $12, $15, $20,000 per contract, I was like, that is life-changing to me. And as a single mom for 6 years that struggled, begged, borrowed, stole, I was like, if somebody had told me about wholesaling then, how many problems would that have solved for me? Yeah. Like, even if I did one a month, that would have paid my rent for the whole year. If I did another one on the month, that would have paid my car off. Like, that would have given me so much financial freedom that I really became on fire about teaching women Well, really everybody, but especially women. And I really have a heart for junior high and high schoolers to teach them. This is stuff that we're never taught in school.
They're never taught. Yeah.
And, we're kind of like, find a husband, be happy, have children, get a job. And, yeah. And that's kind of like what we're taught to do. And I'm like, and that's great. Like I did it. Like I have kids, I have a husband, I have a life. I love it, love it, love it.
But I mean, to have something of your own,
yes,
something of yourself. So that was my next question. So I get this question a lot, like these women who are like, oh my God, I just hate working in the corporate world. I want to quit, but if I quit, I have no money because that's my income. And how do I do it? And what do I do? And it's that leap of faith to quit, to become that entrepreneur. But it's not, I want to say it's easy, but it's not easy. I mean, how would you tell someone, what would you say to a client who said, I want to quit tomorrow?
I would say maybe don't quit tomorrow, right? But like definitely have like a 3-month plan. Like, can you hang out for 3 months? Because what you then want to do is like, I would teach them the wholesale. Another thing is another avenue, and this is where I'm at. Like I'm mostly in the multifamily world, right? So we buy 100+ unit apartment complexes, which seems completely impossible, right?
Yeah.
But it's so easy. And you don't have to have any of your own money. In wholesaling too, you don't have to have any of your own money to do this, right? You just do the things that, there's a lot of free ways you can do it. But two of the biggest, well, the only two really biggest things in investing in apartments is one, underwriting. So underwriting the deal, which is just a spreadsheet, it's data entry. And there are some things that you kind of have to like work at, like taxes and stuff. It's some guesswork. But underwriting, like to underwrite a deal, to have a broker bring you a deal and underwrite it, that's like 10% of any deal. And you did nothing but take your spreadsheet to somebody that can raise the money and say, hey, I have this deal, you bring the money, and you're in a deal for nothing. And it's, your acquisition fees, you get a fee up front. And then you get the passive consistent income for the next 3 to 5 years, whatever that hold time is. And then you get the big fat back end payout. So, an acquisition fee can be $20,000, $50,000, $80,000. You only have to do that one time, right? Or maybe twice, but get that and then leave your job, right? Wholesale 2 or 3 deals at even 10 grand and have that money in the bank before you leave your job.
It's just when I was doing the intro before you came in, and I was like, there's a lot of women, a lot of people, but especially a lot of women who just want to work for themselves and want to be an entrepreneur and just don't know how to do it. Like they could be that single mom. Like I've been a single mom for years too, and it was like, oh, I can't not have this income. What am I going to do if I quit and this doesn't work out? So it's partly faith and part, working your ass off. So I commend you for that. I mean, that's awesome. So you left that horrible boss who were and did something for yourself, and it saved you, it saved your family, it saved your son, and I think that's beautiful. I love that.
Yeah. And it's fun. It's a lot of fun because the other part of the multifamily is raising money. So we go out, I'm a syndicator and I teach about syndication. So what does that mean? We go out and we target busy professionals that want to own real estate, but they don't want to be landlords, right? They want the passive, consistent income. That's all they want, just consistent income where they don't have to do anything for it. So we go out, we find those people, and I basically party, which is, I've always been a party girl. I've always been the social butterfly. I've always been extroverted. And so I just go out and I'm like, hey, how would you like to have passive income? This is how you can do it. And so that's a lot of fun. And that's somebody, so I hate underwriting. Like if I get a deal and I have to underwrite it, I'm like, I'm not a numbers person. Like I'm words, I'll read, I'll write. But to sit there and do those numbers, it just makes me ill. And so, if you're like, man, I really want in this, there's no way I can underwrite, go out and raise the money. go to networking events, not real estate networking events, but, other networking events that are free, and bring people in, tell them like, hey, I'm raising money for apartments, and, how would you like to have passive consistent income for the rest of your life, and, own real estate and not be a landlord. And that's how, again, you can come in with ownership.
I like all of this. All of it.
It's fun.
Yeah.
It's real life Monopoly. But nobody loses. It's a great time.
That's awesome. Were you scared when you took that leap of faith?
Of course I was scared. Oh my gosh, right? I mean, I'm basically out $150,000. Like, I will never be in a position, if I own $1 billion, if I was Donald Trump, for goodness sake, and I lost $150,000, like, that would scare me. It would hurt.
Yeah.
Right. And so, yeah, of course but it also lit that fire. Like, I have to replace this money. Like, my kids want to go to college. They all have cars. We had like 4 car payments. That money had to be replaced. So again, it put me back in that survival mode. Yeah. And
for your family, yeah.
Yeah. So we had to move fast.
Is your son in the business?
Yeah. So my son actually still runs the single family side. So now we have single family, multifamily. We diversified, and he does the single family and the wholesaling. But we've recently learned that he is a fantastic syndicator. He can bring in some money. And so I'm trying to transition him into being a full-time syndicator.
That's awesome. I bet you are just ecstatic and over the moon that you found his calling.
Absolutely. Yeah. And he's able to do things that he loves to do. Like, as a 25-year-old kid, which he's not even 25 yet, he'll be 25 in August, he lives life on his terms. He has a morning routine, but he spends tons of time in the gym, and he's in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but in like the competitive side. So he's constantly competing. Right. He's traveling all over the United States to compete. He wants to go to Brazil in November and live there for 6 months to compete and learn. And he gets to live life on his terms.
This is his opportunity to live like he wants to live and do the things he wants to do.
Who wouldn't? And he's single, of course. So like, and I keep telling him, like, you can date, but don't get settled down yet. Like, you can travel the world. Like, he can literally do anything and pay for it himself. So it's not like, oh, my mom and dad pay for anything. No, he does his own deals. He makes his own money. He's completely independent. And I love that. And it's very exciting to watch.
When I was 25, that was not even on my radar, I was married by then. I had my first child by then. That's just the way it was.
Right. Yeah. I had 2 kids by then. And so, yeah, I'm super excited, to get to, but again, my passion is to teach this. Like, if we taught kids this as early as junior high, to be self-sufficient and to, provide for yourself and not to have to work for somebody, because especially as moms, and I've been there several times, and as a single mom was devastating for one of my kids to be sick, and I had to call and beg for a babysitter. I had to call into work, which means I missed pay, or I had to fight with I had one boss one time that was like, I don't know what to tell you. You have to come in. And I'm like, but my kid is sick. And she's like, that's not my problem.
Oh man.
How hurtful as a parent to have to like sacrifice your job for your children, and
a lot of stuff in school anymore. I mean, they've dropped a lot of stuff in school, and it hurts me to hear that, because, we had home ec, and we had all these other life skills that were taught in school. They don't do any of that anymore. They don't teach you how to balance a checkbook. Some of these kids, it's crazy. So I agree with you that they should teach that in school. Let me ask you this though. So how do you find like your clientele, like for apartments, or walk me through that? How do you find your clientele to invest?
So I want to live my passions, right? So my clients, I want investors and clients that I like, right? I don't want somebody in my deal that's like breathing down my neck all the time or on my case, or, I want my investors to come in. I want to be friends with them. Like, I want to hang out with them. So I go to and do things that I want to do, and I find the people, right? So like, I love exotic race cars. And I sponsor exotic race car clubs and shows, and those are my people. I love kids. I have a heart for kids. So I do a lot of charity events that focus around kids or, poverty, feeding the homeless, so I will sponsor a lot of charity events because very specific charity events that I believe in, because the people that are there, those are my people. They're also people that, they have money. So that's kind of what we do. I just think, where do I want the people that I want in my deals? Where are they? And that's where I go. And it's usually a party or an event or, so we're a present, but
go to them. They don't, sometimes they come to you, but you go and kind of find your clientele and the people you want to.
Yeah. And so as we grow and we become, we expand, a lot of it is referrals, but a lot of it is, being on podcasts and having, social media. We do get people that we have no idea who they are, and we just hope for the best, but there is, because we are SEC regulated, there is a questionnaire, there is a interview process that we do have to go through. So during that interview process, we kind of get a good feel for, is this person going to be a good fit for us? Are we going to be a good fit for them? Right. And that's what it's about. And if we're not, then we're happy to refer them somewhere else, or, that's just not somebody that we are able to do business with.
Is there an investment to start up with you?
So I am SEC regulated. So there is, but again, that is disclosed and it's deal by deal, right? So we don't quote anything, we don't promise anything, but during the interview process, we'll eventually get to that. So
that's for like an investor. But what if someone wanted to go into the business that you're doing? I mean, how do they do what you do?
You just jump in, you learn to underwrite, right? So, I mean, it's just really easy. Like somebody would be like, hey, how do I underwrite? Here's a calculator. And you can just Google a cash flow calculator, and you just learn, and they'll come with videos, instructions, and, you learn to do it. Or if you want to do the syndication part, I teach on that all the time. In fact, I'm writing a book on exactly how to raise money.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
that'll be out.
Of that? What's your book called?
I really don't know. I think because I just want something super catchy and fun. Like I don't want so I really don't know.
Yeah. Okay.
I've done the outline, so I know what I want it to look like, but what the title is going to be, I have a couple ideas.
It'll be great.
It's going to be great. And there's going to be some humor in there. Because again, I want people to have fun, right? Like,
you don't want it to be a stuffy business. I mean, it's just I want to have fun and when it's fun, it just makes it so much better to run a business. Instead of, I gotta get up and I gotta do this, or I love this. And how long have you been doing this?
So when we first started real estate as a business, it was 2018. So not that long.
Okay. So knowing what you know now, what would you have done differently when you were just starting out?
I would definitely have done multifamily first. I think that any investor looks at multifamily as like the college, right? So when you first start out, you kind of start out wholesaling. That's kind of like kindergarten. And then you kind of move up and, you do like fix and flips, which is kind of like junior high. And then high school is like you have rentals, and then college is the multifamily. And I think that's completely backwards. I think that multifamily is the fastest, easiest way to get in to the investment world and to build wealth. And I just think that because they're apartments, they can be intimidating, but in the grand scheme of things, it's the easiest thing you can possibly do. So I would have not wasted my time on any of the single family stuff and went straight to multifamily.
Okay. And are you actually a landlord, or how does that work?
So I am an owner, okay, but I'm not a landlord because I hire management companies to be the landlords.
That's so fascinating to me. I love this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's a lot of fun. And, and this is what I want to teach. Like, you can own hundreds of doors, like we have over $30 million in assets. And it's so easy. Like, really anybody can do it. And you can do it with no money out of your own pocket.
I know a lot of people are going to be contacting you after they listen to this.
Yeah, please. Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, I may pick your brain in a little bit, but in a moment of self-doubt or adversity, how do you build yourself back up? Like, we all have bad days, but I mean, how do you?
Well, first of all, I am very particular about who I surround myself with. And I absolutely surround myself with people who love me, encourage me, empower me. So, like, was it last week, 2 weeks ago, I literally had the worst day of my career thus far. And it was all in one day, right? Within a couple hours, like really, literally within hours, I lost $2 million with an investor that I would really, he was famous, kind of fell in my lap. I was like, this is our ticket, right? This guy is going to bring all his contacts in with us. We will never want for investor money again. I lost him. We have a financial goal. So my husband is still in the corporate world. We're getting ready to exit him out because I really need him to underwrite. But because he's a CPA and the left brainer, like, there has to be a certain safety net for him to just leave his job. He makes significant money. And so I'm anxious. I'm like, we can replace this money. But anyway, he's just more careful than I am. So we have a certain amount of money that we're on track to make, a certain amount of deals we have to close. And so we're in the middle of one, and we had one right behind this one that we're working with another group. And they were basically like, yeah, we are going to go with somebody else to raise our money. We're not going to use you. So I lost my $2 million investor. I lost the next deal that we were geared up to go in. I'm now not invited to that. And I feel like something else happened and I've kind of blanked out. But anyway, it was just like one after the other. Like, I couldn't catch my breath before the next bad thing happened. And so I was like, gosh, this day just sucks.
Right.
And so what did I do? I called a couple of my friends that I knew would talk me out of that. And they're like, then re-raise the money, and they just love on me. Right. And they just say the right things that I need them to say. And so that's number one, just surrounding yourself with people who encourage you, love you, empower you, and then quiet time. Right. So this is the part where, I just need to stop for a second before I don't know, like vomit my negativity on people, because I don't want to be that person either. Right. So I just have to stop and say, you know what? I can't do any business today. No matter what needs to be done, it just has to stop, because it's just going to continue to get worse. So I'm going to sit down, I'm going to put my pajamas on, I'm going to take my makeup off, and I'm just going to read books that don't mean anything. Right. So I'm not reading any business books. I'm not reading anything, but
that
completely.
Yeah. Sometimes I tell my kids this too. It's like, sometimes you have to walk away from a situation and then come back to it. If you're having an issue where it's not working, walk away for a little bit, clear your head, and then come back to it. And usually you find the answers when you come back.
Yeah. And sometimes that's just what you need. You just need to rest. Right. So first thing, I have to be talked up. I just have to be told that I'm loved, that I am appreciated, that people get me, that they get what I do. Right. Like, it's not personal. And then it's time to just veg.
Yeah.
It's time to turn the phone off and we're just checking out for the rest of the day.
Yeah. And it's like surrounding yourself with like-minded people, because, you surround yourself with negative people and it just doesn't do you any good. The negativity just feeds. So in my life, I cut out a lot of negativity in my life. And sometimes that's family, for me.
No, for sure. There's a lot of family that we don't talk to. There's a lot of family that we would like to not talk to. But that's the way it is, right? As you grow, your circle either grows with you or you just outgrow them. It doesn't mean you don't love them, but there just has to be boundaries.
Oh, absolutely, for sure. And is this something, your business, is this just in the United States, or can it be done anywhere?
It can be done anywhere. Right now we're just in the United States. I do have a couple Australian friends that they're like, oh, we want in, and they want to bring like money from Australia, and that's like kind of tricky, and we're trying to navigate that. And when the rollover of the money, do we lose value? Do we gain value? What does that then look like? So, but we are kind of looking. In fact, I just looked this morning at an Airbnb in Dominican Republic.
Oh, fun, fun, fun.
And so I think that's going to be our next route, not so much multifamily, but definitely doing some Airbnbs in some countries that, we want to visit.
Have you ever been to the Dominican Republic?
I have not, but I've been to Puerto Rico. Not that they're anything the same, but it's out of the country. I know that there's ocean. So I'm a Pisces. So where there's water, there's my soul. And it's very close to the beach, and that's all I need.
All you need. Whenever I go home, like my home is near the beach, and my corporate job is not near the beach. But every time I go visit my son who still lives there, I'm like, oh, it's just calling my name. It's like, it's home. I really want to move back closer to the water.
Yeah, same. So we came from Florida. We didn't live on the water, but we were very close. So it was like no problem to just run to the beach. And we're landlocked here. And I'm like, where's the water? And then we go to like Port Aransas or Galveston, and it's just this muddy, gross, dirty water. And I'm like, this isn't the beach, right? Like, this isn't it.
But there's something, like you go to a beach, there's something therapeutic about the ocean and the waves, the water and the salt. And for me, it's very therapeutic. Like I could just sit there for hours and just be at peace.
Yeah, same. And if I lived on the water, like I would not care if it was 200 degrees. My windows would have to be open so I could hear it.
Yeah, absolutely. So talk about real quick how you help others. Like if someone came to you today and says, I want to get started, give me 3 bullet points of what you would start them on.
Well, it's really depends on them, right? So what do they need? Are they somebody that doesn't have any money that needs money? Then let's look at wholesaling. Let's look at underwriting. Let's look at syndication, right? Is it somebody that has money but no time? Well, let's put you in a deal. Let's get you passive income. Is it, so it really depends on who's coming to me and what they're needing. Maybe they don't have a lot of money, but they just want to get started. I can put them on the single family side. So our single family side, we're not SEC regulated. So if somebody was like, look, I just have $100, that's all the money in the world I have, but I want to at least put it to work. We'll just put it on the single family side, right? Like, sure, I'll pay you, 10-12% interest, and I'll use that $100 and buy pens or t-shirts or something for, one of my events, or, so somebody can start it for as little as $100.
Good to know, especially all these single women out there who just want to be home with their kids, who are working their asses off in a corporate job. There's a lot of nowadays, because it's so expensive, you have to either have 2 jobs or, your kids are pretty much raised by themselves because you're not home.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the worst for sure.
I remember doing that. I ended up staying home with my kids when they were like 0 to 5 before kindergarten, because I was just missing that time with them. I was like, they're at a sitter. They know the sitter more than they know their mom, So I ended up, and the way I dealt with it back in the day was I started my own daycare out of my house because I wanted to be with my kids, but I needed to have income coming in, So I watched other people's kids as I watched my own for about 5 years. So they went to school and then I went back to the corporate world. But I know a lot of women nowadays are they have these ideas of how they want to start their business, but have no money, or this is great passive income, or even starting out with just $100 to get your foot outside that door to be able to leave that job and be home with your.
Right. And the great thing is a lot of these women or people in general, even that are working corporate jobs, you have bosses, you have other people. Like, how many people, if you asked, said, hey, do you have an old 401k or IRA retirement plan period from another job that's just sitting? Like, hey, let's invest it. Like, it's just asking simple questions. I know a ton of people that have old IRAs. They're just sitting, and right now they're losing money. So I'm like, you need to get that out and get it into apartments and, start making money on dormant money that's just sitting anyway.
Yeah, and that's a true point, because I spoke to a retirement specialist about all of this in the 401ks, and he's like, you might have all this money in a 401k. He goes, but when you retire, that's not going to let you live on. You can't live on that.
No, for sure.
So much everything, and you just got this little tiny lump of money. You're like, I can't live off that. That's less than I make now, but I still can't live off that. When you retire,
Right.
you want to travel. I want to go visit my children. I want to be able to take them on trips. I want to be able to live my life. I can't do that on a 401k.
And the beautiful thing with, there's so many beautiful things, but a big part of investing in multifamily is your profits are tax-free. So you actually get a K1 from the depreciation, because even though it's real estate and it's always appreciating, it's considered commercial. So your HVACs, your roofs, your parking lot, that's all depreciating items. You actually get a K1. So anything you would make in profits on your passive income is all tax deferred.
You're getting a lot of phone calls. I'm so excited for you, and I'm glad that, I knew I wanted to have this topic because it's coming up quite a few times. It's coming up with me because I do work in a corporate world. I'm like, I need to breathe. I need to do my own thing. So I was like, I wanted to touch on this subject, and you stood out as someone I really wanted to talk to, because you were so passionate, even in that small little text that you sent. I was like, oh, she knows what she's talking about. Let's get her on, because I think it would help so many people, just to know that they can do this.
Yeah, and the options. That's what I love about this too, is you have options. So again, you can wholesale and do one deal a month. You can wholesale and do a deal a week. You can do the multifamily. There's so many other niches in the real estate investment that you have options, and that's exciting too, because what works for one person, one person that, oh my gosh, I'll underwrite all day long, I love it, love it, love it. The other person is like, I just want to have fun, or I just need that easy button, right? I just need to be able to breathe. There's options for everybody.
That is so amazing. I love that. So what is your greatest fear, and how did you overcome it?
Oh my goodness, the greatest fear. Really, my greatest fear is, and I didn't know this, but my greatest fear was, my children feeling like they have no purpose in life.
It's the biggest fear.
Right. And I just want them to have purpose. I want them to know that it doesn't matter what option they pick, right? It doesn't matter if they work in a corporate world. It doesn't matter if they're entrepreneurs. It doesn't matter, what they want to do in their life. I just want them to love what they do.
Yeah.
And I feel like, anyway, being a mother and your children being lost is my biggest fear. And so, and now I have grandchildren. So my husband is older than I am. We have grandbabies come in. And so, again, my biggest fear is, them being lost in this world, right? Not feeling heard, not feeling loved, not feeling, that they have a purpose. So, as Mimi, I want to come along and make sure they always feel like they have that purpose, and I'm just overcoming it. I just want to love them, and I just trust God. I pray for them, and I'm just going to be there along the way to love and support them.
Awesome. And I love what you do. And I think this is amazing. And I think that a lot of people, not just women, are going to be like, hey, this is a great opportunity, and even like you said, high schoolers, or even at that young age, just coming out of high school or college with no direction. They don't know what they want to do. Maybe this is something they can just kind of do till they figure it out, but have it coming in, you know? Yeah. My last question, and I love this so much, and then I'll let you go. What is the best version of you when you close your eyes and imagine?
The best version of me? Oh my gosh, the best version of me is like getting an invitation to like a high school and teaching kids how to not be employees if they should not choose. Like just having the freedom to know that there are options, right? Like I want to do so much with single moms. And the best version of me is serving somebody, right? Like I just want to be in the midst of people who are looking for opportunity and be able to give them that opportunity. And my spiritual gift is definitely servitude. And I just want to serve, and I just want to see this army of women and young adults and children coming up and knowing they have options and just building this better world, right?
It's beautiful. I love it. I get so many different answers, and I love every single one of them. We were talking about kids, and my oldest, actually both of I have two boys, 24 and 27. Who, you know, they've always gone through, they've done their thing, but they do have, I think it might be all children have that certain time period in their life where they're growing up and they're becoming adults, but it's like, I don't know what I want. Like they have that self-doubt of where is their life going? What are they gonna do? And my oldest one does not want to bring children into the world because of everything that's happening.
Yeah, I don't blame them.
And it's pretty sad. But he's like, I'm just working in the retail world. He goes, I don't know what my life's going to be, you know, and all this kind of stuff. So I love the fact that you want to talk to schools, and I do have some people that I could put you in touch with for that. So
wonderful.
I speak to so many women across the world, and Dana Kaplan is such a powerhouse, and she goes to schools and teaches children to use their voice, to speak up and be authentically who they are. So I think the two of you teaching children and being in schools might be a good fit. She also has a podcast. So she's amazing. I'll put you in touch with her. But I thank you so much for coming on. I enjoyed our conversation. It opened my eyes up.
Well, thank you for having me. Like, I appreciate it. I was listening to your podcast and I'm like, this is amazing. Like these women that come on and they're so authentic and vulnerable, and I was really intimidated, right? And so I was like, man, these women are like, you know, they're overcoming, like, and it's just amazing. And I'm just, I was awed and intimidated to be like, those were some big shoes to fill.
You are an inspiration in your own right. Don't question that ever in your life. But thank you for that. And they are amazing. And I feel so humble because I'm like, I've been through shit in my life. We all have. I sit there and listen to some of these women like, oh, I've got nothing. You know, look what they've been through.
Yeah. I was listening to Nick and her story.
Yeah.
And I was just like,
there's still a part two of her, but
I know, I can't wait, right? Like I was kind of scrolling up because I was like, oh, did I miss the part 2? And but I'm just like, okay.
Yeah.
We all think we've been through some stuff, but it really is helpful though, right? Because it's like, I'm not out here alone. Our stories are different, but it's still crap, right? And then to overcome it and be like, oh, that, especially forward thinking, like when I look back at all the crap and, you know, the bad decisions and stuff, I'm like, but look what it taught me, and look where it forced me to be today. Right. And so in the midst of it, of course, it's traumatizing. But then if you just give it a couple years and maybe not even that much, you're like, oh, I get it now. Right. That I get why that had to happen.
Because it's your life was going one direction that you thought, and then something happens, like a trauma or something that happens, and all of a sudden your life just pivots 360 degrees to something that you never thought that you would be into. Like some of these women who were like, oh, I was going to be, you know, an actress, and all of a sudden now I'm like this coach for whatever, and oh my god, your life just pivots and you have no idea why or how. But that moment in time is what did it. And even though it's as shitty as it might have been, it's that catalyst moment.
Mhm.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. And I love your story. And I am going to say goodbye, but I want you to come on when your book is done.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes, for sure. Because it's going to be great.
And I love it. And I thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much, Kelly. I appreciate you.
Have fun on your Jeep ride today. I'm so jealous of you right now. Okay, honey, I'll talk to you later.
All right. Bye-bye.
Hate ending a podcast when it's so much fun. But thank you so much, Jennifer. I love talking to you today and connecting with you on all these levels. You've given us all some really, really great insight into navigating business ownership and how to be successful. I love this and hope that anyone listening will leave your job you hate and find something that resonates with you and be happy and so successful. You're truly an inspirational and empowered woman. We are so powerful and glorious, and we have everything we need within us to change and grow. And again, everybody, always remember to respect yourself enough to say, I deserve peace, and walk away from people or things that prevent you from getting it. Stay tuned for our next episode for another amazing shared journey of empowerment.